Welcome to this final week of readings from my father's memoir, The Last Mile. The readings over these past weeks have been focused on my father's story during the war years and have been brought to life through the wonderful voice of Mr. Earl Taylor. We learnt that Dad had enlisted at Nambour, was trained on Moreton Island and spent his active service on Thursday Island with the Intelligence Unit headquarters. In his memoir, there is no personal account of his fighting in the jungles of New Guinea. The only reference was a poem he wrote about his mate Joe, who died beside him, shot down by an enemy machine gun. That poem says it all, and I remember when we were working together on his memoir, we came to that poem and he wept. An old man of 86, still reliving that awful moment. War is tragic, not just for the men who sacrificed their lives, but also for the men who came home tortured by what they saw and had to do, what they learnt and what they lost, seared into the heart and mind for the rest of their lives, battle-scarred and changed. Lest we forget. This week, we turn our attention to my grandfather, Matthias Coomber, or Matt as he was more commonly known. We're so blessed to have Pop's personal account of his time at Gallipoli, and over the next 5 days we're going to share his story with you. Please make sure you press follow on my Facebook page so you don't miss an episode. But first, a bit of background. My grandfather was born in 1896 in London and came out to Australia when he was 17. He'd finished his schooling at the age of 12 and had various jobs, but the best one he had was with an actor, Harry Tate. That job finished and he was scrounging around for a job when his brother said, "Well, you've tried everything else, why don't you try for a job down at the docks?" And that led Pop to joining the SS Marathon as a galley boy on a one-way trip to Australia, landing in Sydney. Once here, he palled up with another young bloke, Alphonse Conway, or Fonce, as my pop called him. Together they travelled, working their way up north, finding local jobs as they went, finally arriving in Brisbane. Shortly afterwards, in 1914, war broke out and Pop enlisted. And Mr. Earl Taylor will take up Pop's story from here.
We were looking around for work when the 1914 war broke out. Fonson got a job with a removals company, so I enlisted and we parted company. I was sent out to a place at Enoggera called Bell's Paddock, and we trained there and helped prepare the place for a long camp, falling trees, clearing paddocks. We received our uniforms in dribs and drabs, and our rifles came last. We had our shoots at the Enoggera range, and after a month or two we embarked for Egypt. I remember some Japanese destroyers joined our convoy for protection. We landed in Egypt, did some training there, and then were transferred to Lemnos and Imbros Islands to finish our training. It was from there we landed at Gallipoli. I remember getting off the destroyer into the small landing craft, which was just an ordinary small boat manned by sailors. The destroyers and the big ships like the Queen Elizabeth were shelling the shore and firing at the two forts, Aki Baba and Gabat Taki. The noise was terrific, and you could see the explosions ashore. If we had landed at the proper place, I'm sure we would have pushed through to our objective, but the tide took us down the beach about a mile further to a little sort of a small bay, which was named Anzac Cove by us later.